Hello, I'm Earl Nightingale. I want to talk with you today about something that I believe is one of the most important ideas a person can ever take hold of. It is an idea that applies to you whether you are just stepping into the middle years of your life or whether you are approaching the later chapters. It applies to you in a thriving economy and in a struggling one. It applies to you regardless of your education, your background, or where you were born and raised. The idea is simply this. You can make yourself so valuable that the world cannot afford to ignore you. Now, let me tell you something. I know that may sound like a bold claim, and I know that many of you listening right now have faced your share of uncertainty. Perhaps you have watched an industry change around you. Perhaps a job you held for years disappeared almost overnight. Perhaps you look at the world today and wonder where your place in it truly is. I understand that, and I want you to know that what I am about to share with you is not wishful thinking. It is a law as fixed and as reliable as the law of gravity. The great law I want to anchor our time together today is this. Our rewards in life are always in exact proportion to our service. Ride that again slowly, because it changes everything once you truly grasp it. Our rewards in life, our income, our recognition, our security, our opportunity, are always in exact proportion to our service. Not in approximate proportion. Not sometimes. Always, exactly. It is the most reliable principle in all of human achievement, and it has never once been repealed. Now you may wonder what this has to do with making yourself rare, with making yourself valuable in any economy. And here is the point. When you increase the quality and the depth of your service, when you become genuinely, exceptionally good at something that other people need, you become rare. And rare things are always in demand, always. Have you ever thought about why a master craftsman never seems to worry about work? Think about the old world cabinet makers of Europe. These were men who could take a piece of raw wood and turn it into something that would last 300 years and be more beautiful at the end of that time than it was at the beginning. These men were never unemployed. Kings sent for them. Merchants sought them out. Wealthy families waited months, sometimes years, for their work. Were they protected by luck? No. Were they protected by powerful friends or fortunate circumstances? No. They were protected by something far more reliable. They had made themselves irreplaceable. They had committed, somewhere early in their lives, to becoming so thoroughly excellent at what they did that the world would always have a use for them, and the world always did. Now let me ask you something. What have you committed to becoming excellent at? I am not asking this to shame you. I am asking it because most people, fine people, good people, people with real potential, have never sat down and answered that question honestly. They work hard. I have no doubt about that. Americans are among the hardest working people on earth. But there is a difference between working hard and working with direction. There is a difference between putting in the hours and deliberately building a skill that the world values highly. Consider a young man I once thought about. A man in his late 30s working in a mid-sized city as an accountant at a firm where he had worked for 11 years. He was competent. He was reliable. He showed up every morning and did exactly what was required of him. But one afternoon, his firm was acquired by a larger company, and within 6 months, his position was eliminated. He came home that evening stunned, not because he had been lazy. He had not been lazy. He was stunned because it had never occurred to him that being merely adequate was not protection. He had confused showing up with being valuable. He had confused longevity with excellence. Now here is where the story changes. That man, instead of spending his evenings feeling sorry for himself, instead of blaming the company or the economy or the times, sat down and asked himself a question. He asked, "What do I know?" Or, "What could I learn that almost nobody else around me knows? What can I offer that is rare?" He spent the next 18 months learning everything he could about a very specialized area of tax law that affected small and mid-sized businesses. He read, he studied, he found a mentor. He worked on evenings and weekends, not because someone told him to, but because he had made a decision. And when he re-entered the marketplace, he did not re-enter as an adequate accountant. He re-entered as a specialist, as someone rare, and the market responded accordingly. You see, the market always responds to rarity. It cannot help itself. Now, let me tell you something important. Becoming rare does not always mean learning something completely new. Sometimes it means going deeper into what you already know. The world is full of people who know a little about many things. The world is genuinely hungry for people who know a great deal about one important thing. Depth is rarity. Mastery is rarity. Think about the best doctor you have ever known. Not just a competent doctor, but a truly excellent one, or the best teacher, or the best salesman, or the best mechanic. Do you think that person has to worry about where their next patient, or student, or customer, or car will come from? Of course not. Excellence creates its own demand. Excellence is self-marketing. And here is the point about service that I want you to carry with you. When you commit to becoming excellent, when you commit to going deeper, to knowing more, to serving better, you are not just building a career. You are building a life of meaning. Because the man or woman who serves well goes home at the end of the day knowing that they have genuinely contributed something. And that is a feeling that no paycheck can manufacture on its own. Now you may wonder, and this is a fair thing to wonder, what if I am already in my 50s or 60s? What if I feel as though the window for reinvention has passed? And I want to speak to you about this directly because I know many of you are thinking it. The farmer does not ask whether October is too late to have planted his seeds. He simply asks what he can plant now for the season that is coming. And there is always a season that is coming. A man of 55 who commits today to developing a rare skill will be a man of 60 with a rare skill. Time passes whether we use it well or not. The only question is what we do with it. Did you know that Colonel Sanders was 65 years old when he began franchising Kentucky Fried Chicken? Did you know that Julia Child did not publish her first cookbook until she was nearly 50? Did you know that the great architect Frank Lloyd Wright designed some of his most celebrated work after the age of 70? These are not exceptions to a rule. These are confirmations of the rule. The rule is simply this: the world rewards service, and service can begin at any age, in any circumstance, from any starting point. The great mistake that most people make is waiting. They wait for the right moment. They wait for perfect conditions. They wait until they feel ready. And I will tell you something about readiness. You never feel ready before you begin. You only feel ready after you have already started. Readiness is not a prerequisite for starting. Starting is the prerequisite for readiness. Now let me come back to our great law, because I want it to settle deeply into your thinking before we finish. Our rewards in life are in exact proportion to our service. This means that if you want more from life, more security, more recognition, more income, more satisfaction, there is only one lever you can pull. You must increase your service. And to increase your service, you must increase your value. And to increase your value, you must become more rare. You must know more, be able to do more, be able to help more, be able to give more than the average person around you is giving. This is not complicated, but it does require a decision. It requires you to look at yourself honestly and ask the hardest question a person can ask. Am I giving the world the very best I have? Or am I giving the world just enough to get by? Most people give just enough to get by, and their lives reflect that. But you, the person listening to this right now, you are already different from most people because you are asking the question, and the person who asks the question is already on the way to finding the answer. Here is the great comfort in all of this. You do not have to become valuable to everyone. You do not have to know everything about everything. You simply have to find the area where your effort and your interest and the world's genuine need can intersect. And then go deep. Go deeper than anyone around you is willing to go. Stay longer. Study harder. Practice more carefully. Ask better questions. Serve with greater attention. And do it day after day, steadily and with patience, the way a craftsman shapes wood. One careful stroke at a time. The world will find you. It always finds the rare ones. Now, there is something that lives in the chest of almost every working man and woman in this country. You may not speak of it at the dinner table. You may not even give it a name. But it is there, a quiet, pressing unease that whispers to you on a Sunday night before the work week begins. It says, what if I am not enough? What if the world no longer needs what I have to offer? That feeling is not weakness. It is not failure. It is the natural response of a thoughtful human being looking honestly at a world that keeps changing beneath their feet. Industries shift. Companies reorganize. The skill that served you faithfully for 20 years can feel suddenly fragile, like a language that fewer and fewer people still speak. I want you to sit with that for just a moment. Not to dwell on it, but to acknowledge it. Because only the person willing to look the thing squarely in the eye is in any position to do something about it. The rarest things in this world have never once had to beg for attention. The world comes looking for them. Most people, when they feel that unease, do not act. They hold on. They stay very, very still. They hope that the ground will stop moving if they just keep their balance long enough. They do not add to their knowledge. They do not deepen their craft. They do not reach beyond what they already know how to do. They simply hold. And the years pass, and the distance between where they are and where the world needs someone grows a little wider each season. I understand why. Change asks something of us, and it is much easier to wait than to begin. Beginning costs something. It costs comfort and time, and the willingness to be a beginner again at something you thought you had already figured out. But here is what I want you to understand, and this is perhaps the most liberating thing I will say to you today. The law that governs value has not changed once in all of recorded human history. Not once. Go back to the tradesmen of ancient Rome. Go back to the artisans of medieval Florence. Go back to the skilled engineers of the early American industrial age. In every era, in every economy, in every corner of the civilized world, the answer has always been exactly the same. Scarcity creates value. Always. Without exception. The thing that is common. The skill that anyone can perform. The service that anyone can deliver. That thing is always in abundant supply. And abundant supply keeps rewards modest. But the thing that is rare, the knowledge that few have taken the time to acquire, the mastery that most people walked past, because the door to it looked heavy, that thing commands the world's attention and the world's resources, in every economy, in every season, without fail. A diamond is not precious because someone decided it should be. It is precious because the earth produces very few of them. And the person who makes themselves rare, who goes 10 steps deeper than the crowd, is willing to go. That person becomes, in the most practical and immediate sense, a human diamond. And here is the relief in all of this. You do not need permission to become rare. You do not need a credential, or a title, or someone above you to open a door. You need only a decision, a quiet, firm, unshakable decision, to know more about something the world genuinely needs than almost anyone around you currently knows. That decision, made today and honored each day afterward, is the only tool required. The market will do the rest. It always has. Let me ask you something. And I want you to answer it honestly. Not the way you might answer it at a dinner party, but the way you answer things when it is late and quiet and there is nobody listening but you. Have you ever done a day's work and come home feeling strangely empty? Not tired. Tired is honest. Tired is earned. I mean something else. A hollowness. A sense that you gave the day your hours, your presence, your motion, and yet somehow you gave it very little of yourself. You were there, but you were not truly there. You completed the tasks, you filled the time, but somewhere between the morning and the evening, something went missing. That feeling has a name, though most people never find it. It is the feeling of a person who has quietly disconnected their effort from their purpose, who has begun without ever deciding to work for the clock rather than for the person on the other side of their work. And it hollows a person out, slowly, the way a slow leak hollows out a tire. You don't notice it all at once, but one day you press down and find there is very little left. Your income is not determined by your employer. It is not determined by the economy. It is determined with extraordinary precision by the depth of service you offer another human being. Now, most people respond to that hollowness by pulling back further. If the work no longer feels meaningful, they give it less. They do what is required, not one step beyond, not one degree more warmth, not one extra ounce of thought or care. They become, in the truest sense of the word, transactional. They trade hours for dollars with the detachment of a machine, and they wonder, genuinely wonder, why the dollars never seem to grow, why the recognition never arrives, why Monday morning feels heavier with every passing year. They are standing at the very lever that could change everything, and they have stopped pulling it. In fact, many of them have turned their backs to it entirely. Here's what I know to be true. Not what I suspect, not what I have read in a book, but what I have observed in every field, in every profession, in every corner of American working life over many decades of study. Your rewards, every last one of them, are in direct and exact proportion to the service you render, not the service you are capable of, not the service you rendered 5 years ago when you were hungry and eager. The service you are rendering right now, today, to the person in front of you. Think about the finest waiter you have ever encountered. The one who made you feel, in a plain room with ordinary food, like the only person in the building. That man or woman does not worry about tips. They do not negotiate for recognition. They simply serve with such complete and genuine attention that the reward arrives on its own, the way water runs downhill. They have discovered, perhaps without ever putting words to it, the oldest commercial law in human civilization. Give more than is expected, and the world will always settle the difference. A farmer does not plant half a field and expect a full harvest. He plants every row, he tends every inch, and the earth, which keeps its ledger with mathematical precision, returns exactly what was planted, nothing withheld, nothing added for charity. Sow generously, reap generously. Sow sparingly, reap sparingly. The earth does not negotiate, and neither does life. And now here is the thing that I want to leave with you, because it changes the entire picture. You do not need a new job to begin serving better. You do not need a promotion, or a new title, or someone above you to grant you the authority to care more. You can decide, right now, before this day is out, to bring one more degree of genuine attention to the person you serve tomorrow morning. One more degree of thought. One more measure of warmth. That decision, compounded over weeks and months and years, does not just change your income. It changes who you are. And a person who has become genuinely, deeply committed to the service of others is a person the world will never allow to go without. The world cannot afford to lose them. Your rewards are waiting. They always were. They were waiting on the other side of your service all along. There is a current in human life, a strong, wide, slow-moving current. And if you have never made a deliberate decision to swim in a different direction, the odds are overwhelming that this current has been carrying you quietly, gently, almost imperceptibly, right along with everyone else. Now, I do not say that harshly. I say it the way a good navigator states a fact about the water. Because the current I am describing is not laziness. It is not failure of character. It is something far more ordinary than that. It is simply the path of least resistance that every society in every era has laid out for the majority of its members. Go to work, do what is asked, collect what is offered, come home. Repeat. And here is what troubles me about that. Not the routine itself. Routine can be noble. What troubles me is the quiet resignation underneath it. The sense, in so many good and capable people, that excellence is something that happens to other people. That mastery is a gift distributed at birth to a fortunate few. That the man or woman who rises above the crowd must have been given something that you and I were simply not given. Have you ever felt that? That the extraordinary life was written for someone else, and you arrived just a little too late to claim one for yourself? The crowd is not your competition. The crowd is your opportunity. Because the crowd has decided, almost unanimously, not to be excellent. And that decision leaves the entire field open to anyone willing to make a different one. Consider what the great majority of people do with their evenings. Now, I am not here to judge a man for how he rests. Rest is necessary and good. But I am talking about the cumulative weight of 10 years of evenings, 20 years, 30. While one person watches the hours pass, another person in the very same city, earning the very same wage, carrying the very same responsibilities, is spending one of those hours going deeper, learning something the world values, building something rare, brick by quiet brick. At the end of 1 year, the difference between those two people is modest. Noticeable, perhaps, but modest. At the end of 5 years, it is significant. At the end of 10, it is a chasm so wide that the person standing on the far side appears, to those still on the crowded shore, to have been born lucky, to have been handed something, to have had advantages that were never available to ordinary people. But that is not what happened. What happened is far simpler and far more available to every person listening to me right now. One person made a different choice about their hours. That is all. That is the entire secret, stated plainly. Now let me tell you something about the numbers, because the numbers are more encouraging than most people ever stop to realize. If 95 people out of every 100 are content to remain average, and every serious study of human achievement suggests that this figure is roughly correct, then only 5 people in every 100 have decided to be genuinely excellent at something. Only 5. In a room of 100 people, you need only to outgrow 5 of your own habits, 5 of your own hesitations, 5 of your own comfortable limitations, to place yourself among the rarest 5% of contributors in your field. This is not a mountain. It is a decision. A single, quiet, personal decision made once and then honored every day in small and practical ways. The world has handed you an almost empty field and left the gate wide open. The crowd walked past it. They were comfortable on the road, and the field looked like work. It is work. I will not deceive you about that. But it is the kind of work that compounds, the kind that makes you more tomorrow than you were today. The kind that 10 years from now will have built something so solid beneath you that no shift in the economy, no change in the industry, no turn in the weather of the world can shake it loose. And here is what I want you to carry with you from this. The person who chooses excellence does not need to defeat the crowd. They do not need to argue with it, or resent it, or feel superior to it. They simply need to light their own lantern and walk in their own direction. The crowd will notice in time. The crowd always notices the lit window in a dark street. You were not born into the wrong life. You were not passed over before you began. You are, at this very moment, standing at the same crossroads that every person who ever built something lasting once stood at. The road the crowd is taking is wide and well-worn and thoroughly mapped. The other road is quieter. It asks more of you, and it leads somewhere the crowd has never been. The choice, as it has always been, belongs entirely to you. I want you to imagine something with me for a moment. Picture the sharpest person you have ever known in your working life. Perhaps a colleague, perhaps a mentor, perhaps someone you admired from a distance because of the way they walked into a room the quiet certainty they carried, the way answers seemed to arrive for them effortlessly, while others were still fumbling with the question. Now ask yourself this. When did they become that person? Was it overnight? Was it handed to them at birth, wrapped and labeled and ready to use? No, it was built, assembled piece by careful piece over years of deliberate investment in the one asset that never depreciates, never rusts, never loses its value when the market turns, the human mind. And now ask yourself the harder question, the one that stings just a little. When did you last invest in yours? Not when did you last work hard. I have no doubt that you work hard. But when did you last sit down with a book, a course, an idea, a discipline you did not already know, and choose on purpose to grow? For many people, if they answer honestly, the answer is uncomfortable. Not because they are careless, but because the days fill up so quickly and the mind is so patient. It does not cry out the way an empty stomach does. It simply waits quietly while the weeks become months and the months become years, and the distance between what a person knows and what the world now requires stretches a little wider with every passing season. A man can lose everything the world can see, his business, his property, his savings, and rebuild it all if his mind remains sharp, curious, and directed. But the man who loses his hunger to grow has lost the one thing that cannot be replaced from the outside. Now here is what troubles me most about this. It is not the people who never had access to education or opportunity. Their struggle is real, and I honor it. What troubles me is the capable, intelligent, experienced man or woman who simply stopped, who reached a certain level of competence and said, quietly, without ever quite putting it into words, "This is enough. I know enough. I have arrived." Because the moment a person decides they have arrived, the world does not stop moving to honor that decision. The world continues. New methods emerge. New ideas displace old ones. New people enter the field carrying knowledge that was not available 5 years ago. And the person who stopped growing watches with a confusion they cannot quite name, as their footing slowly becomes less certain, as the respect they once commanded begins to require more effort to maintain, as the world that once needed exactly what they had begins asking for something they have not yet taken the time to learn. They did not fail dramatically. They simply stood still in a world that never agreed to do the same. But here is what I want you to truly understand, because this is the principle that changes everything once it settles into your thinking. The mind is not like a bucket that fills and then overflows. It is more like a muscle, and an extraordinary one at that, because unlike any muscle in your body, it does not weaken with use, it strengthens. Every idea you wrestle with makes the next idea easier to grasp. Every book you finish leaves your mind slightly larger than it was before. Every discipline you study opens a door to 3 more disciplines you had not previously known existed. The growth compounds. It builds upon itself with the same patient, unstoppable arithmetic as interest in a savings account, except that this account cannot be taxed, cannot be seized, and cannot be inflated away. Think about what that means over a decade. A person who invests 1 honest hour each day in the deliberate growth of their mind accumulates, in 10 years, more than 3,000 hours of focused intellectual development above and beyond everything the crowd around them has absorbed. 3,000 hours. That is not a slight advantage. That is a transformation so complete that the person who emerges at the far end of it is, in the most practical sense, an entirely different and far more capable human being than the one who began. And every bit of that transformation is transferable. Every bit of it travels with you. No employer can take it. No economy can dissolve it. No chapter of difficulty, however long or hard, can strip it from you. It is the one form of wealth that belongs to you absolutely and permanently in every circumstance for the rest of your life. And so here is where I want to leave you on this point. Your mind right now, today, at whatever age you are, in whatever season of life you find yourself, is not a finished thing. It is not a closed account. It is a garden in mid-season, and the soil is still good, and the sun has not stopped shining, and there is still more than enough time to plant something magnificent. You do not need a university. You do not need permission or a program or someone to hand you a curriculum. You need a decision and a direction, and 1 good hour set aside from the noise of the day. 1 hour given not to distraction, not to the passive consumption of what others have decided you should think about, but to the deliberate, purposeful expansion of who you are and what you know. The person you are capable of becoming is not somewhere far off and unreachable. That person is already inside you, waiting quietly, with extraordinary patience, for you to begin the investment that will bring them forward. Your mind is your greatest asset. It always was. It is simply waiting for you to treat it that way. And here is something else I want you to understand. The decision to become truly excellent is also a decision to become truly free. The man who depends on average skills lives in constant fear that the world will find him out. He is afraid of competition. He is afraid of change. He watches the news with dread because any shift in the economy might expose him. But the man or woman who has made themselves genuinely valuable, genuinely rare, genuinely excellent, that person greets change with something closer to curiosity, because they know that wherever there are human needs, there is a market for excellent service. And human needs do not go away. Our rewards in life are in exact proportion to our service. Plant that law in your mind. Think about it in the morning when you begin your day. Think about it in the evening when you review what you have done. Ask yourself, did I serve at my best today? Did I grow a little today? Did I add something to my rarity, to my depth, to my value? If the answer is yes, then you are on the right road. And if the answer is no, then tomorrow is a new field, and the seed is still in your hand. I want you to do just one thing after you have heard this today. Just one. Take 1 hour, 1 single hour, and spend it deliberately building the skill or the knowledge that will make you more rare, more valuable, more excellent. Not 2 hours, not a full day, just 1 hour. 1 hour dedicated completely to your growth, invested as carefully as a farmer plants a seed. Do that today, and then do it again tomorrow, and the day after that. 1 hour a day, 7 days a week, is 365 hours in a year. And 365 hours of deliberate growth will transform you. Not just your career, but you. Who you are, how you think, how you see your place in the world. The world needs excellence. The world is always short of it. And it will pay handsomely, gratefully, consistently for the rare and excellent person who steps forward to provide it. Our rewards in life are always in exact proportion to our service. That is the law. And the law is always in session. Good day.